And in October of 2024, Walt Elish, the former economic development manager, brought to the town trustees a presentation by some economic development leadership in northern Colorado. And one of the individuals that presented gave this overview of what is the most important role for local government. And you can see the percentage breakdown. And an individual that presented indicating that yes, we want to provide quality services and amenities. That is most important to residents. However, what is most important to the development community is to provide strategic leadership and to facilitate projects going through. So that was a very important quality. And again, your deliberation being very clear, that's an important winner there. So over the past 2 years, we've been doing, or actually even just over the past 6 months, we've been doing a lot of virtual tours, a lot of walking tours, a lot of primary discovery about what the vision for Berthoud is, whether it be the branding survey, some of the housing diversity study, all of these things that we've been doing, your virtual field trips. It's all in an effort to make sure that the vision that's in the comprehensive plan is vetted properly and into our land use code. So you have been important parts of these field trips, and many of the things that the town trustees have done, we've duplicated them for you. And then we've had, oh darn it, I forgot the footballs again. You all are going to get football stress footballs because we're all on the same team. And we'll remind you that we're all on the same team. So I forgot them for the town trustees as well. And there can be absolutely no favoritism. We treat everybody the same. So we've had meetings with the development community. On May 5th, we had a meeting with them. They did receive footballs. And to, again, this is what the housing diversity plan outlines. This is what's in our comprehensive plan. This is where we'd like to take the code. And then they actually provided us, two developers, provided us with some good input on things in the code that are confusing, that they would just like clarification on. Some good input on, there is a challenge between the density that could happen in like a row house or a townhome product and the block size requirements. They were in direct conflict with each other. So some of those unintended consequences we've been able to work through with input from the development community. And then we've had some small group meetings, and then while not directly related to building and development, the building division has, we call them B4 meetings. They're Berthoud Builder Breakfast Burrito meetings. And we have a meeting with them 3 to 4 times a year. We talk to them about what are some common issues that they might be experiencing. We talk to them about stormwater quality, the upcoming international code changes, things like that, so that the builders that are taking the time to come feel as if they have an opportunity to get to know us, get to know the building officials, and they have that inside information on what's going on in the town. So again, trying to build those relationships. So some things that we've heard from the development community as well as in the survey is Berthoud's done a great job at maintaining small town charm, and then Berthoud's losing a small town charm. We've heard that the town adheres to the land development regulations too closely, and then we've heard that the town is not adhering to the land development regulations closely enough. We've heard that the town cuts favors, and then we've heard that the town is too bureaucratic. We've heard that the town, that we need more customers, more businesses, and more amenities, and then we've also heard that growth is a bad thing. So again, we're never going to please everybody. So these differing opinions, complete polar opposite opinions, this is not unusual for any community anywhere we go. So it's not something to, in my opinion, to good job for both sides of the spectrum. And Berthoud has a secret sauce. There is no doubt about a magical lure here. We have historic structures and potential to bring them back. Businesses along Mountain, especially between 3rd and 5th Street. There's lots of fun, unique businesses. They're not chains. They're historic homes and development patterns, parks and amenities, views to the mountains, and new development that are clustered and close to downtown. So there are a lot of good things that are happening. We have also heard. So how do we balance what's in front of us for development? All the things that are in your e-notebooks, the comprehensive plan, intergovernmental agreements, master plans, overlay standards, guidelines, the development code, and specifications and standards. You breathe this, you know this, this is what you do. So again, and though I do want to say, because the trustees, they're working on lots of other things for the town. They're not doing this twice a month necessarily as you all are, and you all have picked up on you can use these tools as a shield. When you get a developer coming to you saying, I want you to deny or approve this for these reasons, you know what your shield and your toolkit is in order to talk to them, and then you also know, I can't talk to you, please call staff. So more of what we've heard. Protect and preserve values. Our agricultural heritage, Western views, and small town charm. Ask any of us what small town charm means, and we're all going to give a different answer. We want investment and reinvestment value. We want it to be equitable and sustaining. Sidewalks, restaurants, boutiques, artwork, gathering space, signage, and quirkiness is okay. It's the thing that makes Berthoud Berthoud. Connect to neighborhoods, and again, more parks, trails, and sidewalks. So then we also are looking for an aesthetically pleasing environment. And aesthetics seem to be the thing overarching anything else that is important to Berthoud. Aesthetics in landscaping, aesthetics in place, aesthetics in the architecture and the history of Berthoud. So housing diversity and protect historic homes. Small-scale commercial development, high standards for building and site design, well-maintained sidewalks and tree lawns, quirky attributes without false histories and false themes, and to activate the human experience in downtown, whether that be street lights, sign placement, more landscaping, the flower pots, just make it feel like you can walk downtown. Also, we want a strong economy and equitable treatment, provide opportunities, and the town should invest in downtown, ensure efficient processing and development applications, and we also need new retail and restaurant opportunities. So, our focus is we're going to stay true to the values and the goals in the comprehensive plan, stand behind the master plans and the development code, and we're using those as a guide and a shield, guarantee a consistent and transparent development review process, and keep consistent guidelines and requirements for all growth. So how we're going to do that? Okay. What we heard from the developers is time means more to them than financial incentives. So where we're going with that is we'd like to propose an administrative final plat. Because preliminary plat is 80% construction drawings. Truly, the final plat is 100% construction drawings, and it truly is a technical exercise to get from preliminary to final. So that's going to mean a slight shift in what they provide to us for preliminary plat so that you all can see everything during the public hearing process. And then it's the staff then making sure that everything you've requested and everything the town that then gets addressed administratively. That will shave off 2 to 3 months with timing and notice and all of those requirements. However, staff is also going to retain the right that if they're not complying and they're being difficult, that we're going to go ahead and bring them back to you all for public hearing. Staff wants also to have the ability to reduce application requirements for infill or reuse projects. An example of this is we have a business coming into Berthoud, and they were wanting to rent space in an industrial area in one unit in an industrial block. And per our code, it says that they have to do a site plan, which is an administrative review. They are one unit in an overall structure. So we did a site plan like, the structure is already existing. Why would we have them, and it's already paved, why would we have them do new drainage report? An ecological characterization study. Some of these other things that just seemed onerous. So when working with the town administrator, we said, these are the things we need you to do for us. And then we were able to get them through the process in less than a month. So that's then incentivizing new development to come into Berthoud while reducing some of the burdensome, application requirements. But we'd like that to be codified. We're also clarifying annexation and vesting requirements. Right now our annexation section of the code just says you shall adhere to state statutes without saying, and you need this kind of application, and this is what you shall do, and this is the information that you shall provide to the town. We've clarified in there what they need to provide us. And right now, vesting is when you do a final plat or a use by special review, by state statute, you have 3 years where your approval is protected. So if the code changes, if you don't put a shovel in the ground for 2.5 years, you are granted to do what you have on paper. That you have a vested property right. Well, there are places in our code where neighborhood development plan is granted 5 years, not vesting, but your neighborhood development plan is good for 5 years. Your site plan is good for 3 years. Some of these things are good for time, but it's not part of state statute, and we really can't be giving good for time for something that is ever changing. So the attorney is helping us pull that back, and we're saying that site plans and other administrative approvals, they have 1 year, and if they don't enact their project within 1 year, they need to start all over, because what happens is codes change, visions change, and then we have something from 20 years ago that now they're wanting to bring forth, and it doesn't give us any leverage to ask them to come back with adhering to the current situation and the current vision. So final plats and uses by special review come to public hearing, and those are the things that we'd like to, well, final plats don't, except if they want vesting, they will come to you all, and they will come to the town trustees. Condense criteria into intent statements. So we were going to start the subdivision and land use chapter with intent statements. And the criteria for approval is taken from everything and put into one area now in the code. And so every development has to meet the same criteria for approval. And I believe there's about 14 criteria for approval. And so everybody's going to have to meet the same criteria for approval. And so it might be, does X comply with the intent of the comprehensive plan or the underlying zone district? Do they provide for connected neighborhoods? Things that we've been hearing you all say and ask questions of applicants, those are going to be intent statements. Your application materials are going to have to address how, they're going to have to state how they're addressing those intent statements, and those intent statements then will become your criteria for approval. So they're actually going to have to provide us with more information, not just plan because my subdivision, I'm proposing suburban residential development. Okay, and we're wanting them to go that and to think a little bit more and to think about what they're contributing to the town of Berthoud. What we are going to be doing is performing, this is just a policy thing. We're going to be performing a more detailed review at submittal versus sending it out for that first round of referral. And by doing this, if an applicant has not addressed our code, we're not waiting 30 to 40 days after checking a project in and then waiting for all the referral agencies to expend time. We're going to do that review up front more in depth so that when we do send it out for referral, the referral agencies are getting a better document. So staff, planning staff, engineering staff, we're going to look at things up front and then have them clean things up if they need to, and then we send it out for referral review. It will be more efficient. All of the processes and requirements are now streamlined into tables, and the table describes when we say you need to submit your engineering documents, instead of having the narrative for what those engineering documents are actually in a table, and then the table cells are this tall, we've now just said engineering documents, and then there's a descriptive narrative after that table that describes what's in an engineering document. What are the expectations? So that the table is now smaller, and now we're going to have a more robust description. And then we're going to reference overlay districts and guidelines versus duplicating into code. For example, our landscape guidelines, there are many instances where we talk about landscaping in the design standards. However, our actual landscape guidelines that were adopted last year or late 23, there's still some instances where there's a conflict. So we're going to strip everything out that's in the Mountain Avenue overlay. Strip everything out in the First Street overlay, landscape design guidelines, architectural guidelines from the code, and we're going to reference, it is codified that you shall follow these guidelines, because if we make a change in the code but we don't make a change in the guidelines, we're already creating a conflict there. And we're working with Erin Bagnall, who's an architect who's helped the town develop these guidelines, and she's doing a very deep scrub to provide more options for housing, diversity, to provide more options for architecture, to make sure that, again, we're adhering to the vision that's in the code. But they won't be in the code, they're going to be guidelines. So we're going to be referencing these guidelines more as well. Okay, so also the town is very permissive when it comes to development and density. Thank you, Lynn. So there isn't a lot of, we've provided a lot of carrots at the salad bar without a lot of sticks. And so we're adding in some sticks that if we're providing all of this to you, the developer also has to give something back to the town. So we're interweaving some of that in as well. And instead of, for instance, some developments right now, if they're smaller, they only have to have 2 housing types or product types. So that can be a duplex and a single family home. We're now increasing the variety of what they need to have for options. We're also increasing and saying, well, now you need to provide 5, or now you need to provide 6, so that the neighborhoods are more diverse. However, the list of what they can have is also going to be bigger. We're also, Bella worked on, in the park requirement, we had maybe 5 things that were required for all parks. We've now upped that a little bit. We've included art and dog waste stations need to be incorporated in. Oh, and a sign with the name of the park and the address need to be incorporated into every park space, regardless of size. So pocket park added in some different elements, and then we've grouped other elements so that it's going to, again, more choice. However, more choice and the town wants more. So there we go. Okay, so what we've heard from developers, town trustees, and for you all, again, consider the housing diversity options and density in context of the land use plan. One example that we're also doing right now, it says that you shall have lots shall be a minimum, or the minimum size lots in some districts are 3,000 square feet. I think that's the urban residential. So instead of going with the 3,000 square feet, we just divided 43,560, which is how many square feet are in an acre, by 30 to get, all right, well then this is the maximum number of residential units you can have on an acre. That way, you're not pinned in by a lot. You can do a little bit more creative design, maybe have some more clustered housing or patio homes, and cluster on a smaller portion and have more open space, perhaps. So we're giving a little bit more flexibility there, and that was from the developers that they wanted to have that. And then architecture, of course. So different housing diversity types. So one thing that we're considering about doing is have mini lots, small lot that might have like a 30-foot frontage, small lots with 40-foot frontage, medium lots with 50-foot, and large lots that might be 60 feet or more. And that is more akin to what's actually happening in the Old Town, because in the 1800s, when they subdivided the blocks in Old Town, they were all done in 25-foot wide lots. So anybody could buy 3 lots, and so now they have a 75-foot wide lot. They might be next to a 50-foot wide lot, and they might be next to a 25-foot wide lot. So it's an option, again, to mix densities into a single street. Again, the rear-loaded garages, we're going to request that if you're on a corner, that your garage is side-loaded. There's no reason to have a street of garage fronts. Again, different widths, clustering, adding more incentives to have ADUs as a neighborhood identity feature. Single-family attached, we're looking at, again, differences in paired homes. Having a paired home just within separate entrances for each residential unit, or having a paired home with a single entrance and then on the so that it looks like a single-family residence on the outside, and you walk in the front door, and then you have a little vestibule, and then you go your own way. We're looking at doing that also for multifamily, so like 4-plexes, 5-plexes, where you can have everybody has their individual entrances off of the street side, or you enter once and then go your separate ways. So we're trying to bring in more variety. For what we're finding is that developers are just going down the list and just doing the pick without being creative and thinking of different ways of doing the same thing. So we're trying to encourage more creativity. And that's it. Oh, one thing, this is really small. Get your magnifiers out. So Lathan Dixon is an intern, and she pulled this information together just to show how rapid communities on the Front Range are growing. And of course, Timnath in the 2010 to 2020 just exploded. And they were leading the bunch in 2000 to 2010 as well. They're still leading. But you can see Berthoud, Berthoud's been up there as well, so has Johnstown and Windsor. And the larger communities of Fort Collins, Loveland, and Longmont have been a little bit more steady. They're also larger, so they don't have as much space to grow. So this was just interesting to see that rate of growth. And that concludes this presentation. I just wanted to give you an idea of what's coming. You're going to see the whole package where the attorney is reviewing everything and scrubbing everything and working with us. And we're working while not being too restrictive that we're trying to push development and affordable housing away. Oh, yes, so I just sent to the state today, for those developments with 50% or more affordable product, they get to go through an expedited site plan process per the state. And so that would be for like multifamily. And so we've got that already going, and we're going to have a guidebook developed, and we're going to have some fun interactive work plans and work process. So there we go. That's what staff's been working on this year, and it's coming close to being done. And we will be so happy.
There you go.
Do you have any questions, concerns,
Bef-
comments?
Before we go to questions, I want to put it in the public record that Commissioner Smith is here. So that
Sorry for the delay.
our friends at the Berthoud Surveyor, we love you, but we don't want you to, when you write the story, that you don't
Oh,
say,
yeah, don't
"And
misquote me."
Commissioner Smith was not here." So,
And Commissioner Smith actually did come in right after I got off of the first slide.
right.
So about 2 minutes after we started this item, Commissioner Smith did come in.
Yes.
Roughly 6:11 p.m.
Thank
on
you. Appreciate it. Now it's on the tape too. So, sounds great. Questions, commissioners?
Yeah, I always have. Painful with me. So, if you go back to your first slide, second slide, yeah, we talked a little bit about, yeah, right there. The legal, the equitable, and the ethical. Can you just give me some examples of what you mean by that?
Exactly. So legal, we're not cutting deals on the side and processing somebody differently or saying, yeah, you can do this. And so we have standards that we have to adhere to.
Okay.
So that's legal. And we are also not putting up artificial roadblocks for someone just because they might not have a pleasant personality. All right, then ethics is kind of the same thing, where we're Switzerland. If somebody brings an application to us and it's a particularly difficult application, or we know that that application can't work, we will let them know, we don't think this is going to work, this is why. We can accept your application and we will process it if you want to expend the time and expense to do so. However, we don't believe it's going to work. We believe it could work if you do these things. So we're trying to guide people for success. Sometimes we can't, some just won't be guided.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of those.
Yeah. So that's legal, ethical, and then equitable. So it's kind of all the same, where equitable comes in, it doesn't have to do with, I've had comments from people say, well, it's DEI, it's that, and it isn't. What equity means is, again, everyone is treated the same. We treated the individual that is redeveloping 330 Mountain. We requested the same thing from the CrossFit gym individual, and we treated that individual exactly the same. Here's the long list of site plan requirements. We're not going to require a traffic study. We're not going to require all of these things because it's an existing building. Not, the physical part of the building and the drainage and all of that is not changing. So we treated them very similarly. The 330 Mountain team, we worked with them for over 9 months to get a site plan in, and in the end, actually Tom created it for them. Versus the CrossFit individual worked on it over the weekend, said, all right, here's what we need to do, and they were able to get it done very quickly and very, very fast. they were two individuals, they needed the same type of product, and yet we treated them the same. Here's the list, here's the long list. However, logic speaks that you shouldn't have to do these things. And of course, we always clear that with the town administrator. And so we're gonna treat you the same. You're doing kind of the same thing. Likewise, if a mom and pop shop, somebody, a local business, said, hey, I'd like to do X on this piece of property, and a national chain came in, we are going to treat local business exactly the same as we're going to treat national chain. We still have standards, architectural landscape standards, we still have these things we need to know, because it doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing, you're still going to have an impact on the town. And so we're treating everybody the same.
And that's kind of what when I read it, that's kind of what I read into it, and I wanted clarification.
Yeah, and again, equity.
It's very similar.
Yeah, equitable, legal, all of that is very intertwined.
Okay.
Any other questions, commissioners? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Can you go back to the change slide, or the next slide? I think it is the change one. Yeah. Yeah, opportunity. Yeah, so the administrative final plan. And you have where it's a technical exercise. So again, as things change, what exactly will we see? Will we see this final plat, or will we? That's kind of what I am, like, there'll only be one plat we see now?
Just the preliminary?
You know?
So I know that that's a big change for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what you will see is you will only see the preliminary plat.
Mhm.
However, that preliminary plat has to be at 80% finalization. It
Okay.
can't be, and that 80% is something that our engineer, Luke, he will determine, is this at 80%? They will also be required to submit an 80% landscape plan, the irrigation plan, everything up front, so you are reviewing the entire package. Now, if there would be something that you really felt you wanted to see again, definitely you can request that at preliminary plat.
Well, that's what I wondered. Can we make this, that a condition of approving the preliminary plat?
I can ask our attorney, I think you can, if there is a rational nexus, if there is a true connection between the preliminary plat and the final plat.
Is it, also, I was wondering about that one. Sorry, Nick.
No,
but
that's why I
just
brought it up.
piggybacking
'Cause,
on this. I was wondering if we wanted to just be informed about where these were in the process at one point. Would that be, I mean, is that something that could be written in there so that, let's say after this is approved, that planning commission will be notified that that one was approved? I just think it's helpful for us to know.
Definitely, and that doesn't even have to be in code, that's just a courtesy that staff will agree to do. If it is all administratively approved, we will bring it back to you in our staff report and say, this was approved. Your concerns during the preliminary plat were X, Y, and Z. They addressed them this way and everything got resolved. We will just do that as policy, and that does not have to go into code.
Is there going to be anything, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
is going to, anything that talks about what a substantial change is from the preliminary plat to the final plat as to when staff gets to make that decision and when it comes back, you know, a deviation to 10% or more? I mean, you know what I mean? Is there going to be parameters that trigger when it has to come?
Isn't there already? Yeah.
But that's, but it doesn't come back here. So I'm just curious now that it won't, the final won't come here.
So if they're gonna make a substantial change, and Tom can help correct me, if they're proposing a substantial change with their final plat application, they would actually have to go back to the preliminary plat stage.
Okay.
I'm almost, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, I'm almost wondering, does it make sense to have certain criteria that would allow us? I know what you were worried about earlier, about you don't want us to not treat people the same and arbitrarily say, put a condition on to say we want to see this one come back. But does it make sense to put some certain criteria in the code that would, if it meets that, if it's one of those things, we can ask that it come back, or that,
I'll ask the attorney what that might look like. That may open the door versus, let's say that an individual at preliminary plat had a problem with a dedicated school site.
Yeah.
And, but it was at.
For example.
I wonder where that was.
And it was at, or some site that's dedicated for a public purpose, whether it be a fire station, school site, big town park, whatever reason it is. And there was a problem with that at preliminary plat. However, the condition, you passed it with a condition, the town board of trustees passed it with a condition. They come back and they said, well, now that it's all administrative, we're going to ignore what was said. Number one, it's a condition that was passed in a public hearing. We have to, as staff, maintain that condition be met. And if they refuse to meet that condition, we just don't do their final plat. So we're not cutting deals in the back room or anything like that. We're holding them accountable to anything that comes forth to the public in a public hearing. They have to make a commitment to do.
And if they want to change that, they would come back to us, but as a redo it, like an amendment to their preliminary plat,
Yes.
then that becomes the new plat that you work from
Yep.
on the final.
Exactly.
Okay.
In order to get to that administrative final plat, they have to adhere, what was it, up to 90%?
That's what I thought you said.
Yeah, there's could be a 10% fluctuation. So maybe they could go from, 400 homes to 440 or 300 homes to 330. Some minor change like that, as long as it doesn't change the road alignment or open space requirements and things like that. They can do minor changes, not more than 10% of the impact would just go. And that's also the same thing as 10% of the impact doesn't necessitate a major change, which then sends them all the way back to the beginning again.
But this is kind of what I'm worried about in a sense, is we know density is a big deal to people in Berthoud. So if they made any type of change, significant change in the density, couldn't that just be a criteria for it automatically going to us for, on the final plat?
So I'm looking at final plat. Sorry. The final plat review criteria. So for clarification, it would be a 15%, no more than 15% change measurable standard. And then we have a second requirement that does not change the number of lots or residential density by more than 5%. So that is separate and unique.
And that is more restrictive.
That's better.
So
Yeah, I
going
think that's
from
reasonable.
300 lots to 15.
15.
So that's a pretty, when you look at a large development, that's pretty
Yeah, right, it's immaterial.
Minor impact.
Yep. However, if you're decreasing the size of your park by more than 15%, then that would kick it back
Yeah.
and bring it to you.
Mhm.
Thanks, Tom. And is that in the proposed changes, or that's how it is now?
That's currently how it is.
Yep, and that, we're not proposing to change that.
Okay.
So this process, was this kind of brought up by the developers that they thought it would be a good idea to do this? I'm trying to understand, because I'm trying to understand, like, if you want this, you really have to come with your game.
So staff has been talking about, can we do an administrative preliminary plat? And then just bring the final plat for public hearing. And we wanted to do that to incentivize, if you up your neighborhood identity features, if you up your housing this administrative process in order to try to encourage better development. And so we presented that to the development community, and they said we would much rather do the public hearing process first, because by the time they get to a final plat, they've expended hundreds of thousands of dollars into engineering, and then that final plat to be denied, that's a bigger risk. So that's when they said we would much rather go to preliminary plat, to public hearing at preliminary plat, and give you more at preliminary plat, and then have minor changes to come in with the final plat, and let that be administrative, because then their risk is heavier with preliminary plat. So they know that their commitment, they're gonna have to spend more and do more for the town, and then we just decided, let's just raise the standards for everyone, and then have the final plat be administratively approved. And then that way, it's equitable, it's the same process for everyone, the town just wants more.
So, and a question about the public hearing. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but we currently have public hearings at both preliminary and final plat for most
Right,
cases.
right
Yeah.
now, final plat only comes to you all.
Right. Yes. Is there concern about essentially giving half the amount of time for public input to these developments?
No, because even with a final plat, even with things that are administratively approved,
Mm-hmm.
there is public
There's
notice,
a-
there's a sign that gets posted.
Yeah.
Public surrounding property owners are noticed. We'll still have it on the website. Anybody can go in and look at it. Anyone that has a concern can still call us, email us.
And that's included in the final plat
Yep.
application.
Yep, so there's no hiding what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's kind of upside to that in that right now the process is complex and people might I find it confusing that there are multiple opportunities for public hearings and they don't know which one is the most important one for them to be at. But at the same time, you know, I hesitate to like take opportunities away from people to express their opinions.
And you don't have any fear that there'll be some gamesmanship to get that extra 5% of density?
Yeah, that's
Because
what I'm
density is
wondering
just
about.
huge, right?
Yeah.
And so I know 5% doesn't sound that much, and on certain things it's not. But when it comes to density, you know, an extra 20 units next to you or in this area could be a big deal for people. And I think that's a lot of what I'm used to hearing at public hearings is the density. So what I don't want to do is have developers go, oh, it's going to be 300, and they know that they've got that 5% leeway that doesn't kick it back. They don't have maybe as much public scrutiny. You know, they're going to try to minimize the density they bring to
And
preliminary.
we wouldn't be able to expose them publicly there.
Right, well, the nice thing about it is we're not changing that substantial compliance section of the code at all. So they could do that today, and yes, they would have to bring it back to you all. I mean, we can add in the code that if you want to stick with an administrative final plat, it has to be exactly the same from a density perspective to the
Yeah, if you're
I would
like
feel
that.
more comfortable
I
with
like
that.
that. The
But
whole
yeah, if there's a
density thing-
change in density, I just feel like the public and you have the right to.
Yeah, the whole density thing is, you know, is such a big deal. I totally agree, and I think that we should say, no, if you're going to do that, if you're going to make any change in that, it's got to come back.
I would just say too, keeping in mind that I think again back to the 80% to 100%. I think when you finally get to final plat and from feedback, I think what we constantly hear from developers is that truly once you really get to final plat, you are not making those kind of changes because at final plat you are truly solidifying all your infrastructure. And so the cost to even increase density, I think, is pretty substantial at that point. I think where we'll see that more often than not, and even currently, is from neighborhood master plan to preliminary plat. And because that is the easiest shift there, because we even have a Legacy Park, for instance, that finished preliminary and they're now into final, they have now invested a substantial amount of money to get this final plat that's well over 300 pages long, or their construction plans. So I don't know how often, certainly we can still may be worthwhile to put something in code, but I think it's probably less common
But
to, between preliminary and final.
wouldn't you think it would deter it even more if
Yeah,
you
for sure,
change it?
for sure.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
That going from, and that can be a criteria for submittal of the preliminary plat. That to go from preliminary to final, that they can't make a change in density at all, just period. And if they want to make a change in density, then they go back to preliminary.
And I think if they know that up front, that
Yeah,
it'll
They
make
won't.
it a lot more
it'll be a
transparent.
deterrent, yeah.
Yeah, because then they know the risk. Because that is a risk. I mean, if you start moving things around or you know, schools or whatever, that could change density pretty
Right,
quick.
and again, we're giving this to them as an incentive.
Yeah.
And so what do we want back from them? And I'm fine with that.
And I think the public will trust that process more if it's that way.
I agree. I think that's good input. I like it.
You might shift that density within the development, but the density doesn't change.
Right, the maximum number
Yep.
cannot change. But again, yes, let's say that they discover something going to that 100% and they realize, oh, we need this
Yes.
block to be less dense, but this block, if we're just switching
Yeah.
the blocks around, as long as it's not impacting trails,
Yeah.
open space, anything like that, if it's a simple swap, we're okay with that.
So are we agreeing that they cannot increase density, but they can reduce density? Because I think that's what
Yeah,
it ought to be.
Yeah, I would think they have to come back to us if there's an increase in density.
yeah,
Yeah.
only on an increase.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted
It's
to
very
clarify.
impactful to them, and it will make the development community, again, honor their commitment that they're making to you all in order to receive this special thing. They're making that commitment to know what they're doing up front.
Like that.
Commissioners, any other questions or concerns?
Nope. One more.
Go ahead, Nick.
You mentioned something about Walt. Is he? Are we replacing Walt? Did he retire?
He retired.
Okay.
Well retired.
Yep.
And his position has been split
Okay.
between two existing staff members.
Okay.
Brian Du Bois was the assistant to the town administrator, and it was doing some economic development work with Walt.
Okay.
And he is now the economic development, I'm sorry, I can't remember, manager, coordinator, director after his, I don't know what it is, but his focus is on economic development for the town. Stephanie Horvath is the communications manager for the town, and she now is focusing on downtown as well.
Oh.
So she's doing downtown business development for the downtown, and Brian is over everything kind of left the downtown.
Okay. Kind of like the
Interesting.
technology area and. Okay. Perfect. Nice.
I like that.
So
Good.
they're great, they're both wonderful to work with, very friendly towards the development community. So I think having specialty areas of focus will be fantastic for future business growth.
Thank you. I thought that was a great presentation.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I like the, you know, the bullet points. Hey, this is the thing these are the things that are going to change that we're looking at, because it's a big deal.
It is, yeah, it is a big deal, and then also every day, you know, we have about 8 chapters that are finished, but every day we'll think, oh, this issue here now is creating a cascading domino effect. And now we need to go into these 3 chapters and make changes, and that's what was happening, so
Yep.
I didn't want to bring you preliminary red lines to take a look at we're really close to having it all wrapped up, but I didn't want to, then slide something in and somebody said, well, you did something, disingenuous, and there's no intent there, it's just give you the high level, and then you'll see the big changes.
Well, speaking of that, what do you think your timeline is then?
Oh, yeah. So, staff and our consultants that are helping us, Aaron Smith, the town attorney, and Aaron Bagnall, the landscape architect, we have to have everything scrubbed, and Porton and Bella and Luke have to have everything scrubbed by September 8th, because then that gives me 1 week to go through all the scrubs and make sure, again, we don't have cascading impact or anything that's not clear, we just to do the final scrub. And then I'm getting that out then internally and to Aaron and everybody for a 2-week review. And then we're gonna try to get the packets out to you well in advance. So right now, it's not set in stone because I haven't placed the ad yet. But we are looking at October 9th, you will receive the full code. And that right now is the only thing on the agenda because it could be a very big discussion.
And I would ask that if it's possible to only have for that night, I know sometimes we have other things can happen. If it's possible that that's the only thing we have on that night.
Okay, not a
We'll
problem.
focus on that, yeah.
We've got that.
Because I think it makes it hard on us to
Yeah.
try to do a public hearing on something and focus on that, and then all these kind of more intense kind of code amendment types of things.
Yeah, we can do that. And then it will go to the town trustees for the first reading on the 28th of October. And then on the 10th, or whenever, the 11th of November is Veterans Day, and it's a scheduled town trustees meeting, so they're looking at where can we move that. And so that week, if we have town trustees meeting, that's when it will go. So, and we're going to make, and because the codes can't be effective until 30 days later, so that's why we need to get the final reading in November so that they become effective January 1st.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's the plan, and again, that's what we've been focused on, so other things.
I get it.
But we are looking for virtual field trips for
Good.
you.
Okay.
We'll get there. We'll get there
All
on the
right.
field trip.
Well, thank you. Thank you so
Thanks a lot. All right.
Okay, so then I'll wait up here for the next thing.
Any other questions about
Why do
this?
you always look at me, Karen?
No,
Am I the troublemaker?
no, I just
No,
know
I'm
you
just kidding.
you like to ask questions. That's okay. That's why I
I'm
tell
just
my
kidding.
children they ask questions, right? All right. So then let's go to number 5 on the agenda, which actually is now number 6 on our agenda for tonight. And let's talk about the Mountain Overlay District.
Just a physiological break for 2 minutes.
Sure. Do you want to take a bio break, everyone? How about be back at 7:05?
Yeah. 3 minutes.
Or actually 7. That one's wrong. That one's the right one. So let's say 7:10.
You have 3 minutes.
Yeah. I looked at that earlier. I thought that thing is.
Oh, it's gone. Don't worry about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can't bend my knees.
We're still recording right now, so just keep that in mind. I was so worried about you. I was like, that has got to be the most horrible thing for a mother and a father. Alrighty, looks like we're ready to reconvene. And Director Johnson is going to present the Mountain Overlay District changes to us as well. Again, remember, this particular item does have a public hearing, so we will go through that process with this particular item on the agenda. And with that, Director Johnson.
Yes, thank you. So this is a proposal based on existing land use that's happening in the neighborhood conversion district of the Mountain Avenue overlay. And what's happened is that the parcels here, so you can see just the overview and where those districts are on this slide. And the north side between 5th and 8th, there are 6 parcels. One parcel is Fickle Park, and it composes 1/3 of that area. Then there are 3 of those 6 parcels have already been converted, and 3 are still in residential uses. Then on the south side, between 5th and 8th, the entire block between 5th and 6th is already in commercial use. 75% of the block between 6th and 7th is in commercial use, and then about half the block between 7th and 8th is in commercial use. So we all, either independently or in groups of 2 with staff, walked this area to really look at the impact of changing some of the residential conversion to downtown commercial, and what would that impact be? And if we remember here, what we're truly looking at is the setbacks, because height and density, parking, right-of-way encroachments, all of that between both districts is exactly the same. The only difference is in setback from Mountain and setback from secondary side streets, and then some differences for 1, 2, and 3 stories. So the difference, so just thinking again, as we're visualizing those areas, from Mountain, it's 0 to 10 feet for downtown and 10 to 20 feet setback. So we're really talking about being able to build right up to that setback line versus having to be 10 feet off and maybe going to 20 feet off. So they could build right up to the setback line. They could also have a 10-foot buffer.
Can I just, right up to the setback line or right up to the lot line?
Right up to, so
They'd build right up to the lot line because there'd be no setback,
Right.
correct?
Right.
Yeah.
They can build right up to the lot line.
Thank you, okay.
Yes, thank you. And then on the side streets, it would be 0 to 10 for downtown and 10 to 15 for residential conversion. Now, you know, when you give everybody a minimum, they're not gonna go to that maximum, right? So really, it's 0 going down the line here for downtown, and it's 10 from Mountain, from secondary, and if you have 3 or more stories, it's 10 feet for residential conversion, and then if you have 2 or 1 story, it goes down to 5 feet minimum in downtown or residential conversion. So going back then, taking a look at this, so this, on this corner here, we have an alley, and it's a natural break. And then we have Fickle Park, which is right here. And the discussion was unanimous that keeping the residential feeling of lots facing on 6th and 7th, facing Fickle, keeping that residential feeling and character was very important. The residential character in this block between 7th and 8th was also very important. The properties in this area and these blocks here have pretty much converted from residential to commercial. And there was discussion, and staff has looked at this as well, that since it's already converted, while some of them setback already because they may be grandfathered. If they should redevelop, the thought was they could develop right up to that property line and it would be okay. So staff is coming back. We talked about this maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks ago. We took this out of the short-term rental presentation. We were going to try to bundle two together. Took that out. We all did the tour, and then this is what we landed on. The animal hospital here on the corner. Bella and I went door to door to everybody. If they didn't have time to talk, we left a business card, and then I followed it up with a phone call or an email to everyone as well. We heard from the property owner at Marley and Moose. They're supported, and we also heard from the business operator at Marley and Moose, so 2 individuals. They are supportive of this, and we spoke to the business manager or office manager for the animal hospital here, and they are supportive. I've heard nothing from anyone else. So we did make the attempts to talk to them, and what this means for these property owners, if should a catastrophic event occur, or should a developer come in and want to purchase property, they could redevelop these properties right up to the property line on Mountain versus having to be set back 10 feet. So they're gaining more space to redevelop. That's really what this is about. It's increasing the building envelope where somebody could develop the property. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Could I just ask on the, I'm getting, south side, it looks like you have a much shorter, it's like splitting the block. I assume that whole parcel. See how it's kind of a greater distance on the north side of Mountain Avenue. It goes to kind of halfway through the block, but somehow,
Yeah,
That's just a
would not
graphic.
be- Yeah, the intent is, I believe the Mountain Avenue overlay district is either 100 or 150 feet from the center line of Mountain Avenue, and the entire parcel, if it touches that overlay, it's in.
okay. Yeah, just like some of these are kind of half in and half out of
Yeah.
that.
So, and the fact that it's, I mean, the section between purple and red is, I mean, the line is in Fickle Park. Is it,
This is an alley right here on this block. Oops. Yeah, this block here is Fickle Park,
yeah,
and so, oh, I see what happened.
Yeah, see, that
it
whole
just
thing
got
is
Yeah.
just,
shifted.
It got shifted up a
That
bit.
red line, thank you for pointing that out, and please let the record show that that line was shifted, and there will be no division between purple and red on the north side of Mountain, on that face of Fickle or that front face. The line is the center line of Mountain, and there will not be divided parcels. I didn't understand what you were saying.
yeah, it was
before.
Yeah,
kind of
because it's a
like,
property
sorry.
line.
So
Yeah.
that is,
Yes, Mark asked it better.
Yeah, I think it's a property line.
that was just a graphic error, so please let the record show that is not the intent, that it will be a solid purple or a solid red, not a split.
We
okay.
just need a
So-
crayon
So
here.
the purple goes to the center of
To the
Mountain
center of
Avenue.
Mountain, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that color seems
Yeah,
to
yeah,
shift
yeah.
versus and getting it onto
I think it just,
Okay, no, I understand. So I was
No,
confused.
thank you. Human error, sorry. my-
No. I mean,
Other
so and you
questions?
said that this was unanimous during the visits, because I did the first one and I said, okay, they're gonna say something different.
No, I think that it was not necessary, and we also can't make decisions outside of the public hearing process.
Yeah.
It was just a unanimous decision that, yes, let's talk about it,
Mhm.
and yes, properties have changed,
Mhm.
and that we are gonna bring it back.
Okay.
So, yes, we can't, no decisions are made outside.
Yeah. of
Staff
course.
just listened to everybody and
Yeah.
brought back what was a majority.
No, I understand. Yeah.
feeling about that.
well, and I just want to thank staff and also the fellow commission members to take the time to do this. Because I
Yeah.
think we got to this point, because when you're out there, it just made sense, right? I get the feeling we all kind of felt that same way.
Yeah.
It was much harder to do this without standing there in the
Yeah,
street and
and
really
actually
looking at the
seeing,
structures.
touching.
So I appreciate everybody taking the time and doing that.
And preservation of trees is
Yeah.
very important. And it's actually in the land use code that as you can, you shall preserve existing trees. Some of the trees down here maybe elms, might not honestly be that healthy. This block here, there's a big gap in the middle of this block that faces.
We can't see what you're.
Yeah,
Oh,
we-
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't-
There's a big gap, that former motel,
Yes.
they don't have street trees. So should they ever want to redevelop that property, of course, we would want to see street trees planted there. They could come right up to the property line, however, we would still want that tree lawn to be in there or some street trees. So we took a look at that, and that feeling of the street trees was very, very prevalent between 8th and 7th. And then there were a lot of street trees then, very prevalent, of course, on the north side in Tickle Park, and then between 6th and 5th for that western block.
Right.
Not a lot. There's lovely landscaping at the vet clinic. And there are some street trees there, but then on the north side, there not a lot of healthy street tree vegetation there.
So are those trees, like, where the, I guess it's an old motel, right? Are they required to put street trees in? I mean, can the city or the town go and say, hey, you need to replace those trees?
So they've been gone a long time, and that reuse of that property did not come through the site plan process. And so without having things come through the site plan process, we can't require those things.
That's not like a code issue.
But on redevelopment, you could.
Yeah,
right, so-
redevelopment, right.
Yeah, and they did not submit a site plan for redevelopment. And going from a motel or hotel is still a transient residential use, right? And they're going to a similar transient residential use. So it's kind of like for like, even though it's not a motel or a hotel, it's another type of limited residential use. So we didn't require them to do that
Yeah.
because we're seeing it almost as kind of like for like. So if they ever wanted to come in and redevelop any property owner, not just that particular property, but any property, they'd be required to take a look at vegetation and architectural design and, all of those.
Okay. Which is nice to see them get cranking on it now.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed being able to walk there and actually
Yeah.
being able to really take a hard look at that. And I appreciated you all's time because I know that took you away from other things you had to do. So
That's okay, and again, I just want the record to show that no more than 2 commissioners walked with staff. There were 2 staff in every walk to ensure that no decisions were being made. We were just gathering input
Yeah.
on your thoughts, and you're right, seeing something in a plan view is very different than walking.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
live view. All right,
I was
Commissioner.
alone because I'm the troublemaker.
Well, I was alone too. So
This is not a good sign.
well, there you go. All right.
So it just
All
wasn't
right.
that way for availability, and that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing.
All right. So with that, any other questions, commissioners?
Nope.
No.
All right, of staff. All right. Well, with that, then I would like to open the public hearing. If you'd like to speak, please sign in on the listing and on the lectern. I don't see anyone running up there. All right. So with that, then I'm going to close the public hearing. All right. Now is our time for deliberation.
Perfect.
You like the? Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anyone have any?
Yes.
Agree.
We all
I
kind of-
like the
Agree with the plan here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. with that, since there's no other deliberation except for our consensus, I would entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval to the Town Board of Trustees of the proposed amendment to the Berthoud Land Use Code to repeal and replace section 30-3-115, the Mountain Avenue Overlay District of Chapter 30 of the Berthoud Municipal Code as presented by staff.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Semidalis. Do we have a second?
I second.
Commissioner Hoffman seconds that motion. All right, so then, Ms. Manzo, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Semidalis,
Here? Yes.
Commissioner Hoffmans,
Yes.
Commissioner Pond,
Yes.
Commissioner Sigmund,
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith,
Yes.
Chair Anderson.
Yes. With that, our motion passes unanimously. All right, well, that takes us to our staff reports on the agenda. And I know they have many things they want to enlighten us about.
Yes.
We're at staff reports.
So thank you. I'd like Ton to share with you what happened at Tuesday night's town trustees meeting.
Short-term rentals, to be specific.
Yeah.
That was our question. Can we have an update on short-term rentals?
You know, it's funny because when I was at that meeting, I thought, Ton's going to be enlightening everyone. She's going to be pretty excited to tell us all this. So.
So there was a lot of good discussion and deliberation, and in the end, the town board of trustees voted to uphold the planning commission's recommendation of denial. So they, in the end, they made no motion. So it will remain the same. So meaning that the 200-foot separation requirement will be maintained and in place moving forward.
Awesome.
So no
Okay.
changes to the short-term rental regulations at this time.
I will say I was there too, and there was a lot of discussion. I think how many people testified? Three people testified.
So
2 were,
3 or 4.
oh, maybe you're right, maybe there's 4. But
Yeah.
mostly against removing it. So, and some discussion about changing it to 100 feet. But I think that ultimately, I think it was nice to hear that they kind of came down in the same rationale we did.
Yeah.
You know, we were looking at that change, that proposed change. So,
Okay.
sorry, didn't.
Okay. That's all I got from that one.
Thank you.
And then on the 28th of August, there will be a land use hearing. And the law enforcement has been requested to come.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then
Buckle up.
on September 11th, right now, I know that Commissioner Sigmund and Pond will be gone that evening. And right now, we don't have anything scheduled. So I don't know if we will have a buy or if
Okay.
there might be a land use hearing. We're just waiting for a final wrap up of some items. Then we might be close on notice. However, it's a possibility. Then on the 25th Planning Commission, the attorney will be here. And we'll do orientation with the new planning commissioner, which will be a great review for you all. And then we'll have that open mic night with Attorney Smith.
Okay.
Looking into September or October then, that we have the full code on the 9th of October. That will be the only thing. And then currently Planning Commission on the 23rd of October. We don't have any land use cases yet. However, there are quite a few that are so close.
Okay, so it's very possible is what you're saying, that we will have some land use issues on the 23rd.
September 25th, I will not be here.
Who will be
And that's a good one. I'd be disappointed in that.
So as far as
I'm going to be in Germany.
August 28th, so we know that all of these commissioners will be, everyone's going to be there for that
Yes.
one?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm triple checking that.
So no Pond or Sigmund on the 11th. No Pond or no Semidalis on the 25th. Well, we will have the presentations. You can take a look at it when you come back.
So do we just have one land use hearing on the 28th?
Yes.
Just one?
That's good.
Okay.
Yep, and
Yeah.
one thing to consider on the 28th as well is elections. So last year, we skipped them.
I know we forgot about it.
We
Yeah.
forgot about them, so you all have been in your positions for 2 years. So on the 28th of August, I think it would be good to actually have elections, even if you state same. It's
Just for the record and
absolutely
nothing
for
else,
the
yeah.
record. Yep. So that's the only other thing.
Okay, so,
And we'll do elections at the end, so you don't, a new person, if it changes, doesn't have to come in and lead that meeting.
oh, come on.
Sorry to say, no one's going to want to do anything after.
But yeah,
I did have a question about one of our processes for the public hearings. So where did it come from that people have to state their address for the public record? Do you know why we do that?
Well, it comes from a lot of recent, in the past 20, 30 years, where if somebody doesn't like an application, or if somebody really does like an application, however they're coming from a different community, that may weigh upon the decisions being made. If an opponent is stacking the deck, so to speak, against a project, and they don't live in or around Berthoud, it is a tactic that was used a lot. And just knowing that, are they a Berthoud resident or not? Does that impact you or not?
Yeah.
I don't know.
If somebody refuses to give an address, they're still entitled to speak.
Oh,
At least in
of course.
Illinois,
Of
they're
course.
still allowed to speak. You can't mandate. Is that true here in
I
Colorado as well?
don't know legally if
Okay.
it is or not. However, I don't.
it's a good
think we
question
would
for
have
Aaron, I think.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
was thinking that
I
could-
think I would just, suggest that we find out maybe, because I think, especially with the way that the meetings are like recorded and live streamed, I don't know, this is people's public information and they're expressing controversial opinions, and it just might be good to revisit whether this is necessary or if there's a better way to do it
Well,
that protects people's privacy a little bit more.
Sometimes
But
people
they still
want
have
to,
state their name.
yeah.
Yeah.
In theory,
Yeah.
I mean,
Sometimes people want to just because they want to say, well, here's my address, so you can see that's right next door to me, and this
Yeah.
is why I have that opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So if you have questions like that, just write them down and bring them all. Just bring all of your questions, your good dialogue. Let's just have this open conversation.
Yeah, I am not sure what the right answer is. I just wanted to raise
think
it
it makes
in
sense.
case it was like a holdover from, some previous.
Yeah, and I'll prep her and let her know, and she'll have time then to maybe do some research.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I remember last year too, we were down, this time last year, weren't we down at least 2 commissioners? 2 or 3, I can't remember. And so
we were.
it was tough to get a quorum.
yes.
So, yeah, okay.
Well, and we don't have one, so, yes, so those nights when 2 are gone, no one else can be gone or else we won't have quorum. And that will be for, right now on the 11th, we may or may not have a case. And then it will just be for the orientation, so that will be fine. We won't have a land use case that night because you'll need 2 hours with the attorney.
Yeah. We want to make sure we have a quorum though for code.
Yep.
Maybe kind of another attorney question, but I don't know. I've heard rumors, because I haven't seen it, that there's a petition going around town dealing with height. And I also hear they've started a Facebook page. And as a plan commission member, I really want to follow and hear and see what's happening from the public and what the response is. But I don't want to click join the Facebook page as a plan commission member, but then you can't. So is staff following that? Are you able to give us any idea? I can't tell if this is 20 residents or there's thousands of residents that are signing on for this. And how do we stay educated on where the communities, how that conversation is unfolded.
Or should
can
we
I-
even?
Or should
Yeah, or should we? And let me, do you mind if I respond to that a little bit? The basis from what I know, the basis for that particular petition has to do with a land use case or land use cases that may be coming before us in the future. And I think, as Erin would probably say, and I've heard her say, that we have to be impartial. We're quasi-judicial. We can't show that we are in favor of that one way or another. And I will now give you a personal anecdote with that. I was at the Habitat booth a few weeks ago at the Berthoud Market. Someone did approach me with one of those petitions and said, "Do you live in Berthoud?" Started giving me the spiel, and I had stopped them, and I said, "I know that this is connected with potential land use issues here in Berthoud. I'm on the Plan Commission. I have to be impartial about this. I cannot sign your petition or talk to you about this at this point." And I did ask her a question about her petition. Nothing that would have biased me one way or the other, but I think in these situations we have to be very careful. You obviously don't want someone coming in when that land use issue or other ones that are tangential to that come before us and have your name on that petition or.
Yeah,
show
no, I
any
certainly
type of-
never would have signed a petition. I guess I just, we, part of our job is to take public input, right? And so
Here.
reading what's happening,
We have to do it here, you know? We have to do it here where the public knows what we're hearing and the information that we're seeing, that we're not hearing special information outside or reviewing that outside. So it's a fine line, but it all goes back to the hopefully still vibrant due process protections that people have. And so we have to be really cognizant of that because of the types of lawsuits that people can bring if we're not. And that really has, lawsuits like that very costly and have a big impact like on the cities or the towns. So
I have one more question, kind of tangential. Have you ever seen a case where someone on the planning commission, or is this even possible, someone on the planning commission wanted to speak as a resident on the topic, and then would they be able to speak and then come back to this seat and review it? Is that a thing?
So the answer would be you would have to, that you would need to recuse yourself, probably even from the hearing.
yes.
And you shouldn't participate. So if you have a conflict or even an apparent conflict of interest with a particular development, you should recuse yourself and actually leave the room. Because if you are here, if you're participating, you know, your fellow commissioners have respect for you, you all work together often, it could be seen as trying to influence a decision maker, trying to influence other decision makers.
I see.
You can't even have that, the appearance of there being a conflict. And it's
So you'd have to choose one or the other and either speak as a citizen that has a concern about something and then recuse yourself from any kind of vote.
You probably shouldn't even speak. If you're a planning commissioner, you should not participate in active land use projects.
because it has the appearance, okay,
Yeah.
that you're having
Okay,
undue influence.
I'm just curious.
And
That's a good question.
but it is a good
I mean, I
question.
think there's a difference though in whether you have a conflict of interest, then obviously you have to recuse yourself. But otherwise, as a plan commission member, you have, it just in general, you're a resident of the town and your opinion, but you do
Exactly.
that up here, not as
I
a,
see.
But and just to give you another example, during that same time, the woman I was working with, after the petition person left, turned and looked at me and said, "Well, what you really think about that?" And I said, "I can't have an opinion about that right now." You know?
I guess I don't know if the petition is to amend the code to restrict height. I don't even know what the petition's on. So I don't, obviously if the code's amended, then there's no conflict here because we all follow whatever, or that code amendment would come to us, but
It sounds like if it's part of a land use application, it'll probably be submitted as part of the public comment.
Yes.
okay.
And that's what I'm guessing too, that if it's part of the land use issue, which it could be, or set of issues, they would probably, they have the opportunity to come and present that at a public hearing, just like anyone else.
Okay.
Those are difficult, but that was a good scenario to use, because that's a difficult one, because it's in our, that kind of stuff's in our faces all the time. And how do you not allow that to influence you? And you just, it's tough for us. We just have to learn how to sidestep it. It's just,
Yeah. Well, and I did it similar. Somebody knocked on my door, and I let them know I couldn't sign it, but I just didn't know what. I didn't even read it. I didn't get into it. I just said no, but I figured we were all facing that, and I didn't know if staff had any input they could share. But
Any other questions or anything anyone want to talk about while we're here? Any revelations? No additions to the family?
I got a new horse.
No kids
Got
locked in
a
the
new
car.
horse? That's a good thing. That's an addition to the family.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, if not, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Commissioner Smith's moved. Do we have a second?
I second.
And Commissioner Simadal seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Yay. An easy one. All right.